Om Shanti and good morning. When Baba comes and he looks at the gathering, he definitely sees one family. And when he asks for the RCs to come on the stage, or the regional coordinators to come on the stage, he often says that he appreciates how they've learned to work together. So this morning we're exploring the subject of unity as being our secret weapon against Maya. And we have with us Sister Jayanti, who doesn't need introduction, but I'll just say a little bit of why I feel it's so relevant to explore that subject with Sister Jayanti. Sister Jayanti doesn't only spend quite a lot of time in Madhuban and in London, two big centers where there's the family is big and bigger. In India especially, the growth is exponential. And she also travels the world to go and visit centers. And some centers are flourishing, some centers are less flourishing. She is there to provide spiritual sustenance, but also hear the difficulties that the centers are going through. And I think it often connects, boils down to the element of unity. Sister Jayanti probably traveled, I think it was 96 countries that we counted in the last 40 years. And so there's a wealth of experience, a lot of practical example. And I hope that we'll hear the theory, but also hear some example, without naming, but some examples. And I'd just like to start by clarifying the topic, which is unity, the secret weapon against Maya. So how would you define unity to maybe a new family, a new center that is starting up? And how would you define it to a family that has difficulties maybe with sanskar clashes? Would it be the same? And how would you present it as the secret weapon against Maya?
Thank you, Isabelle. Om Shanti. Big subject. I remember right from the time that the RC meetings began, and they happened because of a need. Nobody sat down and said, we should do this. But a million minutes, some of you are long enough in Gyan to remember those days, very intoxicating time. Our first international project, and it just happened somehow. An idea from Australia picked up in London, connecting with New York because of the UN. It's a UN year for peace, and it all just sort of happened. But we realized that we needed a proper system of communication, so the regional coordinating officers happened out of a need. And Thaddeus joined us in those meetings since those very early days. And so this year we celebrated 30 years of regional meetings. And we've had many others join in because there was no service in Russia. Russia didn't exist as it exists today. So Russia's joined in. Africa has grown enormously. But so we've had lots of additions, and it's worked very well. And Thaddeus' main aim in being with the RC group has been to hold it together with love, with unity. And the way that she does it is through spirituality, because our sanskars are completely different. Too fast? Okay, thank you. I'll slow down. The languages we speak are different. Our physically born cultures are different. The environments in which we operate are different. So you can see it's all different. So what is it that's holding us together? It's Baba. It's Baba's knowledge. It's the purpose of what Gyan is about, to create a better world, that vision that holds us together. And so when we share spiritually, we're emerging the things that actually unite us. Without Gyan, this would be a very disparate gathering. Again, different everything. But we're here because Baba brought us together. And so I think that that's an important aspect to understand. It's unity means connected with one, connected to each other because of that one, the love for one, and then the love for the family that that one has created. And so that is unity. And whatever it is I can do to stay connected with one and stay connected with the family is going to help me progress. It's going to keep me safe from waste thoughts, negative thoughts. Why is it that we get pulled to Madhuban? It's the power of the family, the power of the gathering. Maybe you're in a center where there's 12 students, 10 students. Maybe in London, a few hundred students. But yet we get pulled here because not just Baba is now online, but the drishti we get from Baba, but also the family. When I read the experiences, it's very good when people write their experience of Madhuban. It clarifies it for the self. What is it I'm taking away? But also it becomes a chance for you to share with Dadi and those who you want to what it is Madhuban has done for you. And they always speak about the family and what it is they've taken from the family. And so the multiplication of the power of goodness and the love of the family is something that happens within a gathering. And trying to manage on your own, on the path of spirituality, would be not such an easy thing to do. But being part of the gathering, the family, A, is protection from the negativity of Kali Yuga, protection from my own old sanskars. A simple thing. At home, maybe a bit of laziness can come in with Amrit Vela, and you push the limits a little. It's okay, I can get ready in 10 minutes. It won't take me 20 minutes. And of course you can't, and so then you're 5 minutes late, and that becomes a habit. Then you're 7 minutes late, 10 minutes late. And so it's very easy to let yourself get lazy and slide if you're trying to do things on your own. But within the gathering, there's a whole gathering that's there. And it's not just out of showing to others, but because you don't want to be a disruption and you want to take maximum benefit. And so you make sure you're there on time. Again, Murli, the same. So I know, having tried to follow, well, not tried, I did, having followed Raj Yoga on my own with just my mother, which is, on the one side, mother's very powerful influence, but on the other side, you also not necessarily do what your mother wants you to do. So between 1969 and 1973, it's about 4 years, I was at home, even after the centre started in London, and it was still me and my mum. And yes, it's possible to follow Raj Yoga in a very simple way in that style, but it's much, much easier when it's within the setting of the gathering. And so the protection is protection from my own sanskars. It's also protection from Kali Yuga. I can imagine somebody with extra time and they're sitting there at a computer, and it's very, very easy to go from what is necessary, whether it's gyan that you're doing on the computer, whether it's service you're doing on the computer, to, well, let me have a look at this. And one thing leads to another. And when I've seen Brahmins go through a very quick downward trend, a decline, it's been what they're watching on the computer. It's the waste that comes in, it's the negativity that comes in. And so Madhuban and the gathering, or your center, rather than sit at home alone with your computer, go along to the center and be part of the meditation there. So in so many different ways, I do see that it's protection. You spoke about the whole subject of sanskars and the clashes that can happen. If I hold love for the family as a priority, then I'm not going to look at the little things that are individual idiosyncrasies. Getting the word not quite right.
Idiosyncrasy.
Yeah. Because otherwise, your habit of doing this, my habit of doing that, and it can get really irritating. On itself, it's not a bad thing. But the irritation that we allow it to build up within ourselves becomes a problem. And then little minor things become an issue. And yes, I shouldn't be leaving my dirty teacup. I should be washing it immediately. But I've known centers where leaving dirty teacups has become such a big issue. And does it have to be? Surely I understand that the other person should wash their teacup, or in my case, I should wash my teacup. But yet, it's nothing. Really, it's nothing compared to what Baba has given us and the aim of keeping the family together, holding the family with love.
I think the teacup not being washed might be extrapolated into you don't respect me or something like that. You brought the element of Madhuban, and of course when we come to Madhuban, it's as if we can do things beyond our capacity. There's something that lifts us. And I agree that the number is very important, but the strength of a gathering seemed to be more in the unity. I haven't spoken to most of you, but somehow we feel very united. There's a quote that I saw that said, if 100 pianos tune themselves to one fork, they will automatically be harmonized and tuned to each other. And I think that the aspect of looking towards Baba and also looking inwards towards our self-progress is very important. You mentioned love for others, love for the self surely, but what are the other elements that bring that strength so that it's not only being together in great number, but it's lifting us and allowing us, I think, to go beyond our capacity and make the impossible possible.
I get very excited by the thought that, like today Baba was saying, you are my companions, you are servers, you are my helpers. And so what are we helping Baba in? Creating a better world, or even showing everyone the way back home. And so I think that if we keep that as a focus in our attention, that's why I am with this one, this one, this one. And unity or disunity can happen with one. My own disunity, disharmony inside is what's creating the struggle inside, and then I'm not able to get on with others outside. Give you an example. I'm struggling with maybe purity. My attention is being pulled by someone, and I'm really fighting with my conscience. And what is the spiritual work I'm doing inside? I'm just struggling. I'm not really doing my spiritual work of taking Baba's love and so on and so on. But of course that discontent inside is then going to create friction outside. And so this is where today Baba was saying, it doesn't matter what the other one is doing, what you're doing is important. And so just have that compassion, just have that sense of forgiveness, just have that acceptance of the other and hold them. Know that you don't know what the struggle is they're going through, or maybe it is visible, but they're going through something and it's okay. Today they're going through something, tomorrow I may well be in a similar position of going through whatever it is. And so if we have a generous heart and we're able to accommodate in that way, it's okay. And we're keeping that vision that, yes, this soul is very valuable and precious. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday and they were very appreciative that time was being made for them. And I said, we do so much for the world out there, organizing a program. Think about the hours it takes, right, from the moment the idea comes and a meeting to discuss it. All of you know what I'm talking about, the design of a leaflet, and step by step by step by step. It's a huge amount of energy. And at the end of the day, I've been in programs where 5 people have come. I've also been in programs where 1,000 people have come, sure, but it could well be the other. And my point is that having put so much energy into all of that, and maybe not a single one turns out to be a Brahmin, which is also okay, but here's a soul, Baba has found them, they love Baba, and they're a Brahmin. They've recognized Baba. So it's a very precious soul. And so if I can support and help at this moment of time in whatever way I can, it's a very important thing to be done. Not just the attention out there, but in creating that relationship of love, of trust, and acceptance within the family. The family can be sometimes quite judgmental, and I'm not talking about 1 or 2, in the sense that we don't expect anything of people out there, but we do have expectations of Brahmins. They heard the Murli today. Didn't they hear what Baba was saying? Didn't they understand? They should have heard it. When I'm listening to the Murli or reading the Murli, instead of taking it for myself, what is Baba saying to me? My mind is racing and I'm thinking, I hope this person read this Murli today. So that's what I mean. We can be very, very judgmental because we have very high expectations. But in fact, Baba shows us where we need to go, but Baba doesn't reject us at the point where we are. And if I think about the times that Baba, Dadi, all the Dadis have just accepted me, and whatever it is I'm going through, then it opens my heart and it's easier for me to accept others and say, it's okay.
It's a big subject to see where am I at as a part of the bigger family, and if I have difficult relationship with others, there's probably within me something that also needs sorting out. If we're going through something, if we make mistakes, there is this unity within ourselves. Unless we agree that, we're totally bad because we've made mistakes. It's not the way that Baba wants us to go. But look at the mistakes and not being able to accept it. It's not always easy to be tolerant and accommodating with others. So how do you develop faith in yourself if you keep repeating the same mistake? What is it that I can do so that that love for myself is never lost, or it keeps increasing, rather?
Thinking about why it is I keep repeating a mistake, probably it's because I haven't stopped to ask myself this question: why does this keep happening? I haven't made time for myself. Today's Murli again, Baba saying, you give lectures about the call of time, but what is the call for you? And so Brahmins are very good at sharing, but maybe not always so good at taking for the self. And yet, of course, it's one of the first things that we tell people out there: make time for yourself. And okay, so we've made time for ourselves to go through a routine. We're going to have Amrit Vela, we're going to have Murli, and so on. But that's not what Gyan and Yoga is actually about. How am I using my time at Amrit Vela? What am I taking from the Murli for myself? And so, if mistakes are happening, or the same mistake is being repeated, I really need to pause, just press that button and say, wait, I have to see what's going on, and take the time to look at myself. I understand that, as somebody said yesterday, Brahmins are the busiest in the world. It's true, but Daddy does not like this word busy. And she hasn't mentioned it recently, but we know that she doesn't like it. And what she's talking about is where the attention is just out there, the work, the work, the work, whether it's Lokik work or work in a center or whatever it may be. Step back a bit, take a pause, have a look, even if it means saying no to service. I need to make time to look at myself. And then I'll probably see that I'm not taking enough from Baba to be able to do what I need to do. Whether it's the willpower, the determination to make the commitment to change, I'm just not doing it. And hopefully that'll bring about a shift. And so the whole process of loving for the self can only happen if I'm looking inside. Because am I going to love the color of my hair? Well, it's going to turn even more grey than it is today. What is it that I'm loving? We're talking about the inner being. And if I'm not spending time with the soul, the soul, spending time with my friend, myself, the best friend that I can have, I'm not going to go very far. But this is what I see happening a lot. It's very strange. Soul consciousness is such a simple, basic thing, and yet we don't manage to give it enough attention. And yet to become soul conscious and really just be with myself. And then seeing the other as a soul. Soul consciousness, and I can start loving myself, and I can start developing the things that Baba is seeing in me. When you see a photograph of the gathering in front of Baba, big gathering, but you know, Baba used to often say this, again, things have changed, but Baba used to say, watch out, they're taking a photograph of the gathering, and so see your face and compare whatever it is you're going through, and keep checking back to that face. And I think it's very valid. What is my face like when I'm in front of Baba? It's a response to Baba's love. It's a response to the highest that Baba is seeing within me. And it makes me blossom, it makes me smile. And so let me be able to see that within myself that Baba is seeing within me. And then I can go to the next step when I see you. Instead of just seeing you and all your irritating habits, I go up above and see you with the love that Baba sees you with. There was one particular individual, and they hadn't been coming to class for a little while, but everything was clean, no mistake in that external gross way. And they were just very, very busy with their work. It was very demanding work. So Daddy gave them permission to come to Madhuban. And those were the very sacred days of having personal meetings with Baba. And I was translating for Baba the middle of the night, whatever. And Baba looked at this individual, and I wondered what Baba was going to say to them, because their track record of the last year had been abysmal as far as class and yoga and service, nothing, basically. And Baba looked at them, beautiful drishti, and their face was responding to Baba. The soul was responding. And Baba said to them, "You are the original golden jewel." And Baba reminded them of the power of their love, their faith, their commitment, their loyalty to Baba. That's all Baba did. Just praised them. Nothing else. But Baba reminded them of who they actually are. And after that, they were flying, not just in Madhuban, but they got back and they were on track, absolutely on track. So that was Baba's magic. But it was such a powerful lesson for me. See them with that goodness, see them with the truth that they had when they came to Baba. Not even the purity of Satyug or anything. Just, and for most people, when they start their journey, it's very intoxicating. And I said to a soul, when they arrived here in Madhuban, I saw them the first day, they were flying. And she said to me, "I'm absolutely flying, my feet are not on the ground," they were glowing. And so they came to Madhuban with that joy, with that enthusiasm, with that love. And so to keep that always for myself, this is the love that brought me to Baba. Let me keep it alive and let me see others with the same. And the other things that I'm going through, Baba will help me and carry me through those. Total faith.
So definitely it seems that my personal dharna will be a key factor on bringing unity to the gathering. We have the same knowledge and we all connect to one, and the service makes us come together, but the dharna is very important. There was a quote from Martin Luther King that says, when we look at modern man, we have to face the fact that modern man suffers from a kind of poverty of spirit, which stands from in glaring contrast with a scientific and technological abundance. We've learned to fly the air as birds. We've learned to swim the seas as fish. Yet we haven't learned to walk as brothers and sisters. At this point, I'd just like to bring an element, just to zoom out a little bit. We talked about centers, we talked about Madhuban. But each time that there is an element of unity, there can also be an element of exclusion. When there's some small groups in the center, there might be another small group in the center. Or there may be someone feeling left out. But it's the same for the world also, is as we unite, and the world around us, who needs us so much, what do they feel as we become stronger and stronger together? What do they feel? Do they feel left out and rejected?
Two different situations that I've observed. One is where, yes, people do speak about us being very exclusive and inward-looking. You don't eat our food. That's the biggest one usually. Are we less than you? Are we impure? Are we not holy? You're holier than thou. You know, all these statements. You're the only ones who are going to the golden age. What about the rest of the world? So yes, people do see us a little bit in that way, in which they react to the fact that we share similar thoughts and a lifestyle that's different to theirs. And I think that when we're holding on to the disciplines as a support, instead of disciplines in a natural way. I'll give you an example. I'm a vegetarian. No, I'm not going to eat this. And there are things that I can eat. Well, what about some fruits? What about some nuts? So I'm naturally whatever it is I am, but I'm not using it to cut myself off from anyone else, but I'm finding a way in which it's going to be easy for them to accept me as I am. Diet is such a big issue, but I have to find a way to make it comfortable for them. And so I don't think I'm letting go of my principles if I do that, but I have to find a way of making them feel comfortable with me. So that's one way in which we can avoid that. This thing about the chosen people, and you know how there's been wars because of this idea of the chosen people. And so sometimes when people hear about Satyug, again, it's that reaction. When we were doing the Million Minutes, we had to do a lot of thinking about why we were doing this project. Why were we spending so much time and energy? It cost very little money because many people were willing to sponsor and support us. So I think Baba had a bill of zero, literally. It was friendship and love that made things happen. But time and energy was huge. And so we were challenged again and again within the Brahmin family by India. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And we had to just broaden our vision. And of course, Daddy was there to help us with that. Gyan is not only for those who are going to be coming to Satyug. Baba's knowledge is for everyone. There's something here that others can benefit from, that others can take. And so that whole awareness of being able to serve the whole tree, and whoever it is you're with, whichever branch it is they belong to, if I can hold them in my vision as Baba's child, which they are, it's not just a few that are Baba's children. Yes, there's the role of teacher in which we are students. The whole world doesn't want to be God's student, but the whole world is God's family. And so if I remember that, and there's something from knowledge that can help them in their situation at this moment. So today Baba telling us, everybody has to go home. Everybody has to be able to experience peace. And if I'm sharing Baba's message with others with that consciousness that's a bigger one than the little narrow one, then that exclusivity is a very different feeling to the inclusivity in which I'm really part of this big family. Does that answer your question?
But it's a big task because in the world we are looking quite different, and at the moment the eyes of the world, I would say, is turned towards very big issues such as the environment and what's happening with IS as well. There was a quote that I'd found, I'll paraphrase, that said, love and friendship do not gather people as strongly as a common hatred. And that is huge. So their eyes are turned towards that, and if we're not seen as doing something, we're not seen as supporting them. If that's the idea of the world that negativity is stronger than positivity, and we're so focused on the positive, and they're quite focused on the negative and the problems and the issues, there must be a difficulty. And I'll move away from IS, but I'll talk about the environment, for example. It took many years for the message that the Brahma Kumari has to bring to the environment to start to be heard. If you want to share that.
I would use different language. I would say that in 2009, when we were there in Copenhagen, that was our big platform. I've personally been involved since the 80s in Geneva in the creation of the Earth State, the Earth Charter, and various other things in the preparation for Rio 92. So it started a long way ago, but it was in 2009 that it was a very big platform that we came onto with COP, the Conference of Parties for Climate Change. And we were talking there about consciousness and thought. This time in Paris, 2015, so just 6 years later, the interfaith movement was very strongly represented, and I think Brahma Kumaris had a lot to do with getting interfaith recognized and coming up the ladder to the point that it reached. I won't bore you with the details, but there are very specific steps that indicate that. And they were all talking about our consciousness, our attitude. Al Gore, he was at one of the meetings, and I asked him a question, and he put the question back to me and said, you tell me what your organizations and other organizations from a spiritual perspective are doing. And I spoke about changing our thoughts, changing, all of this, and he was nodding away, and then he said, my daughter is talking about the same things as you. And she's in a very big environmental movement. So I would say we were ahead of our time. So I wouldn't say that it took years to get accepted. I would say that Baba's vision is such a big vision, and Trikaldarshi, sometimes I hear people say, Trikaldarshi. No, it's not trickle. A trickle, no. It's Trikaldarshi. So the vision of the three aspects of time, and the things that Baba has told us are preparation for next step, next step, next step. So I think that it's not been a difficult thing for people to understand. And they understand now that you can plant 1 million trees, but while there are people still cutting down so many trees, a few million, you're not going to get anywhere. And what have you done? What's going to happen to all the gases that have already accumulated? So whatever you do on the external physical level, in terms of the environment, I think more and more beginning to accept that that's not going to make a huge difference, at least within the circles that come to these events. Maybe a person out there wouldn't know, but certainly there they do. And so they're beginning to talk about consciousness, they're beginning to talk about change of mindset. And so Baba was showing us the way ahead before others latched onto it. So I think that's what's happening there. Every time there's been, not every time, whenever there's been a major disaster, people have said, can the Brahma Kumaris give a message? And a few times messages have been drafted in New York, a few times in London. And I remember 2001, when it was 9/11, Daddy was in London at that point. And she gave this message. Then it was put into the right language and whatever. But the essence of her message was, you must not blame anyone. And that was such a novel idea for people, because it was so clear. These are the terrorists, you blame them. Here are hundreds of people dead. Of course they're to blame. But Dadi's message was, of course Baba's message, don't blame anyone. Ask yourself the question, what is it that I can do to contribute towards peace and non-violence? And so it's a deeply spiritual concept that when people first heard, they stopped in their tracks. And then they began to understand and accept it. And even afterwards, for a long time, we had a lot of people writing to us and say, that was a very powerful message. And then after that, different things that have been happening, and just now, Brussels, Istanbul, Ankara, it's all happened very fast, one after the other. And someone in London has been drafting messages, and again, this message that's just been put out, it's really, what is it we can do? If there's a negative action, and that has such a powerful impact on the world, can we not accept that the power of peace, collectively united, can do that much more? And that one sentence has had a lot of feedback, very positive, that it's true, that if a few people of negativity can do so much, what about all of us? Can't we together do something even more powerful than that? And so, yes, I think that the power of the collective and each one contributing on an external level, somebody can write, somebody can add, somebody can subtract, and something comes together. And nobody wants their name mentioned, nobody wants their signature at the bottom of it, or even it's somebody else's name and signature, even though it's somebody else's work. And there's a message that goes out, reminding people of the power of that which is positive.
Another quote that I'd found was saying...
finding lots of interesting quotes.
But it was about, in love, unity and duality do not conflict. And if it's not the love for God, if it's the love for peace, because that seems to be what the message is calling for, the love for peace or the wish of seeing peace in the world, that will draw those the rest of the world together. You brought the idea when you were talking about the message that it was written by a group of people and not a particular person wants their name at the bottom of it, right? That's what I understood.
It's been written by one.
Yeah.
And I don't think she'll mind me telling you, it's Maureen in London. But somebody added to it, somebody gave a comment, and it got refined. So,
because when... not only in the quotes, but when I was looking in the Avyak Murlis about the power of the gathering, Baba was very much underlining the importance of regard and giving regard to the other people's ideas. And he even went further to say that to insist in saying, my idea is very good, is actually breaking the unity in the gathering and making it ordinary. So I don't know if you want to comment on that.
It's an interesting balance, because I'm remembering Dadi Prakash Mani and how she would come into the gathering, and I'm thinking especially about the last few years when she was based in Shantivan. And she would wave this bouquet of flowers around, and then she'd come and sit down. And then she'd say,
I had a thought.
Today I had a thought. Sorry, she didn't say I. She'd say, Dadi had a thought. Yes. She never used the word I. Today Dadi had a thought. And that thought would be so powerful. Like one example, it was some point in January, and today Dadi had a thought. Wouldn't it be wonderful if for Shivratri we were to gather 100,000 people together? Now it's January and Shivratri is 4 weeks away or 3 weeks away. But would you believe it? It's set off such a trend. Ahmedabad picked up on it, and they had a gathering.
Programs. Yeah.
Within 3 weeks, it was a gathering of 100,000 plus. I witnessed it. And within the space of a few months, every major city in India had done a program. And in a place like Chennai, they had 200,000 people that came on the big beach. You know, we saw this beach just driving past it, going somewhere. And she told me that's where we had the mega event with the 3 Dadis present. So, if it's my idea, how much cooperation am I going to get? It's going to be me, then fine. You'll step back and say, well, let me see what you can do with your idea. And you'll say, fine, okay, get on with it. But if really there's an idea which is from Baba, one shares it, the whole gathering accepts it. And that's the test. I can say it's an idea from Baba, but it's really me. And I'm holding on to it. Others will say, well, maybe not now, maybe next year. you know, it's too early, it's too late, it's whatever it is, it's too much money, there won't be an acceptance. But if in my heart there's a feeling that really I had no idea about this, but somehow the thought has come, and I share it, and then really what you're doing is bringing Baba into the picture. So when it's yes, it's very ordinary, it's me. And that's it, it's going to stay that level. But something from Baba, and it's beyond all of us, and it happens with all of us, and all of us cooperate with love. And if you see that there isn't that cooperation coming, maybe it's not yet the right time. It's okay. Maybe it is Baba's idea, maybe it isn't my ego. It is very pure, but it's not the right time. Then, you know, Baba talks about the child and the master. And if I want to be the master in charge all the time, problems and interesting control issues create problems in the body. It's very interesting seeing mind-body connections, and just over the last some weeks I've just been exposed to a lot of information about mind and body and control issues, and it's very, very fascinating.
Yeah, I suppose that if there is a big issue with control, it's my own body that suffers, and also the cooperation. Baba also talks a lot about the biggest or the most important power to emerge, to keep the strength of the gathering or the unity of the gathering, is the power to accommodate. And sometimes if I share an idea and I feel if it's from Baba and everybody says great, fine, but it's not always like that, right? So can you expand a little bit on how you see the power to accommodate, or the power to merge, and how you've used it to create strength in the gathering?
I found the word acceptance easier for people to relate to than accommodate. And that's what it is. I've accepted you. This is my family. And there's no question about it. Just as I've accepted Baba, I've accepted my family. And so within that acceptance, there's a flexibility and a dance of sanskars. No rejection. When there isn't acceptance, then there's going to be a rejection in a subtle way, and the other is going to feel it. But acceptance, and my heart is open and generous, and definitely it embraces everyone who's around, and they're then part of the family and whatever it is that's going on. The rejection that one feels, I don't like this, I don't think it's a good idea, then that builds up within myself, and those vibrations reach out also, and the other person feels it.
The aspect of I don't like this and I like that, and the aspect of preferences, I think is a big source of division within the gathering, just as well as control. We talked a bit about principles before, and I can soften the way that I present it and be a lot more positive and inclusive and looking at solutions rather than imposing my principle. But from experience, and I've fallen into the trap as well, seeing my preference, but I would like this to happen. How do we merge that? How do we accept that within ourselves? Or is it something that we should just not have?
I've realized that if I insist that it's my way, then others are also going to do the same. And there's always going to be a battle of ideas. And if really it's a question of preference, maybe today it's soup and tomorrow it's dal, if I accept your preference today, you'll accept my preference tomorrow. And again, food at centers, we're all having Brahma Bhojan, but somebody prefers this style of cooking, somebody prefers this style of cooking. The issues that it raises are huge. But that's really a question of preference. It's sattvic food. Yes, if I have a health issue, that's a different story. But if it's sattvic food, then let it be your choice today and mine tomorrow. No problem with that. I was thinking a little bit further about another thing that you'd raised earlier, but connected with this. Preferences with people. And here's a person I get on very well with, and so it's a very natural relationship. But if it's become something that then excludes this one, and this one, then it's going to cause problems. It's going to create a lot of division and friction. And so I like this one because it's very natural and easy. But can I find something within this one that can allow me to create a bridge with them and also have something that I can find that I like about them, so that I appreciate them, and so I'm able to relate to them in a more natural way than just, I'm not interested. And so I think that that makes a very big difference also. And so just a little bit of work in here, and even work is a strong word to use, a little bit of quiet reflection. What is it that Baba's seeing in them? There was a person who was not from London, but they were in London at that time, very early days, and Daddy was always giving them a lot of priority. They were quite senior, so I understood that, but there were certain things that really didn't at that time feel very right to me about the way they were doing service. And of course it was my ego. I know what is best, and that had to get out, so one thing to deal with. But Daddy then told me, I'm remembering how Baba sees them and the love that Baba has always given them. And she meant Sakar Baba and Avyakt Baba. And so she said, no, I'm not going to agree with what you're saying, because I'm holding that vision that Baba has of them. And that's my responsibility. I have to do this. And again, that was a very, very important lesson. I'm reacting to something within them which I was wrong, but I don't think they were right either. But yet, let me go above that and see, how does Baba see them? What is it that Baba's seeing in them? And it may be just one wonderful quality. There's been a recent situation, and again, it was somebody telling me that they were complaining about this person, and Dadi Gulzar told them that, Baba gives them a lot of love because of this, this, and this. And that person became quiet. And they knew that their complaint wasn't valid, because Dadi Gulzar made them see what was a very important thing that they had, that they were doing, which was absolutely invaluable for Baba's task. And so the vision changed. And so when I say, I don't get on with this person, well, that's a very, very narrow, limited vision. Is it possible for me to change my vision? Then it's not that this is easy, this is not so easy. Well, let me make it easy for myself. And let me not give extra attention and time for the one with whom it's easy. Otherwise, I'm going to create a little group, and that little group is going to be my comfort zone, and it's going to become ever more difficult for me to get out of that comfort zone.
Working on our attitude, working on our dharana, working on our vision. The vision that you describe is very much linked to having a broad and unlimited intellect. And in the Murli that I was reading about the power of the gathering, Baba called it a generous intellect, which I thought was very beautiful as well. And we see it in the daddies, and I think that's one of the reasons why when there's issues, we go, to people like you, like the daddies, and somehow their understanding of knowledge and yoga creates that fire that seems to remove the alloy that divides us very quickly. And it's a fire that is very powerful with them. Can we create that amongst ourselves? And before you answer, I wonder if we can have a microphone so that if there is any questions in the gathering, we will have time, but we'll need a microphone. I think they are coming. So whilst they're coming, wonder if you have any thoughts about this.
I was again recently in a situation where it was a meeting and everybody was talking in a very positive way about whatever the issues were, service things and whatever. Daddy came into the gathering right at the very end, just for a short time, very short time. But her presence, her drishti, she didn't instantly start talking. She took her time, gave drishti, and then she said, "What is the essence of what you've taken from this meeting so far?" And she pulled everybody onto another level. And so in this case, it's a recent thing, she had the magnetism or the power to be able to lift the gathering. And the quality of interaction, of course, was completely different. But then we were not talking about service in that way, but what was going on behind the service and the feelings. So it was very lovely. But yes, surely we can all step up and do the same. And I really think that this is the call of the time for all of us at the moment. 100 and moving on. How much longer? I don't know. Dadi Gulzar, we tend to think of Dadi Gulzar as much younger than Dadi, which she is. But just put her on her own, and she's 90 plus. So how are you using this term young? Young at heart, yes, sure, but compared to Dadi, yes, 10 years younger. But still, 90. And Dadi Ratan Moini, 92. So either drama is going to finish very quickly, very suddenly, and we'll find ourselves not quite ready, or we'll take the signal and we'll say, okay, Baba has done so much through the Dadis and it's great having them around, but surely all of us together have to step up and do something more than we are doing already. And that's a collective decision, but it's also very personal effort. It's not collective effort, it's personal effort. And so the whole subject of unity is a decision we make together. But it's sorting out all the things I need to sort out within myself. And I can then make a positive contribution to unity. Then instead of saying, the atmosphere here isn't so powerful, I'll say, what do I need to do to help the atmosphere become more powerful? And so, very different approaches. But yes, I think that the Dadis are able to lift us immediately, but we need to be able to do that for ourselves.
Thank you. Did anyone have a question that they want to ask? Question, comment? I've got more. Yes. Harish?
Oh, Shanti.
Introduce yourself. You can introduce yourself.
My name is Harish. I'm from Holland. I listened very carefully to what you said, and I understand very deeply that the main priority, especially in relationship with others, is to give priority to the relationship, keeping the relationship good. But there's also a practical side. So for instance, if someone is quite clumsy and breaks all kind of things in the center, and you have a center which needs to be very careful about their finances, and I'll combine it even with someone favors someone else who is less clumsy or even handy, how would you respond to that? Because there's a tendency to exclude the ones clumsy and include the ones who are handy and working efficiently.
Those who wash their cups and those who don't break things.
I think it's multifaceted. And the first thing is to have such a relationship of trust and love and respect that you can tell the clumsy one, we have a problem here and we love you, but maybe there's something else you can do in terms of service rather than cleaning the dishes. And so a situation in which you don't have to express that side, but there's another thing that you could do in which you're more comfortable. And so it's not a question of preference at that moment, but you find a way of giving them another opportunity, but you're also able to explain to them that this is what's going on. And so I think you can deal with it, but first the relationship has to be there. If the relationship doesn't exist, or it hasn't been developed, you haven't invested in that relationship, and you just told them, you know, you're a bit clumsy, and so I don't think you should be doing this, you should be doing this. So the relationship and then the way in which I talk to them.
Do you want to come to the front?
If you make your way to the front, then you'll be ready for the next.
And that's about how many will have the time to take, so those two.
Hi, my name is Furkan from London. When you feel rejection, it could be quite painful, and at that moment you want to go and talk to Baba, sort it out, but it's so painful that sometimes you just want to go and find another comfort zone to ease the pain rather than go and spend that quality time with Baba. So when you're in that pain, how can you stop yourself, go and find another person, for example, who would reject you, and ease the pain and say, oh, I'll go and talk to Baba later. How can you find that strength to sort it out with God rather than falling into the same habit?
The danger of seeking another human being is manifold. And yes, that is the tendency. Rejection from here, and I swing the other way to find a person who's going to support me. At that moment, let me have the courage and the power to tell myself that the human being is only going to give me limited support, and it's not going to be the way in which I can move forward. What I would like to do is to be able to progress spiritually. And this has happened to show me where my own sensitivities are. And so let me spend time with myself, just quietly, and come back to a point of soul consciousness and calm. And then let me go to Baba. And so rather than seeking help on a horizontal level, let me go inside. And if I take that step inside first, knowing that drama is beneficial. If something has happened, it's happened to show me what it is I need to deal with so that I can progress further. It's painful, but if my interest is movement forward, I'll be able to tolerate the pain. And then, after that, after time with yourself, then Baba.
There was another question?
There was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shanti, my name is Arun Doshi, I'm from Malaysia. I run my own programs on dealing with difficult people, and I do Brahmin as well as non-Brahmin groups. And my experience tells me that there are more difficult people in the Brahmin family than, sorry, I'm just being practical, this is what I see in my classes that I do. The reason's very simple. Brahmins, in spite of so much of knowledge we get on ego and things like that, but Brahmins have a very high level of egoism.
A
My
level of?
experience tell me. Ego in them. Holding on to an idea and not prepared to negotiate or compromise an issue with a non-Brahmin in a gathering. That's one point. The other one that my experience tells me is Brahmins have too many meetings. Everything meetings. Small meetings, big meetings. And it's good to have meetings, but I realize that meetings are creating more disunity. Sometimes one-to-one discussion, small group discussion, or just a direction moves things faster than having meetings. And I have found out from my own experience that we try to reduce meetings, things have moved faster. So that's the other point.
I think we'll have
Shall
to
I
hold
stick
just
to two?
two.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. So less meeting, things go faster. And what about ego within the Brahmin family? Is it bigger than in the outside world? You've got 2 minutes.
Great. How often is it that Baba's told us that when we're not a Brahmin, we don't even know about Maya because we're sitting comfortably in Maya's lap. And so ego is part of my persona. I live with it, I breathe it, I die with it. But here's a person who's had sanskars to deal with for 63 births, and now they're challenging Maya and saying, I want to become perfect, I want to become like my father. Those sanskars are going to jump up and down, and Maya's going to say, this is a very valuable customer, I don't want to lose this customer. And so there is a big battle. And so yes, it's a fact, it's like everything gets magnified. But it's magnified because we made that decision that we're going to challenge Maya. And so yes, ego comes up big, all the other things. Anger comes up in a big way. I did not know anger until age 21, 22, when I then came to live in the London centre. It's a fact. I did not know that I had any anger. And it had never ever been expressed in any way. It not needed in a sense, but it came up.
Not needed in a sense.
And so I think that's true for all of us and all the forces of negativity. And of course, the other factor is that it's this family with whom I have the most karma. The Lokik family, it was maybe one birth, and that's it, it finished quickly. But this family, how many births have we been together? And so all the things come up in a very big way here. Absolutely. And then Baba's there to help us, and this is why we need to have a generous heart, generous intellect to be able to accept and continue to love. When Brahma Baba was there was only one meeting that happened, and that was when Baba called the meeting, and Baba called it a seminar. And Baba called it, all the seniors were there. I just happened to get pulled by Brahma Baba to witness that little group. There was the Dadis, the senior brothers, and Baba said, now all of you talk together about service plans and spiritual progress plans. So Baba called that meeting. Prior to that, it was Baba's directions and fine. And after that, Madhuban is an ocean of meetings. As you said, little meetings, big meetings. Same thing with London. London, whilst Dadi was there, straight directions, very quick, fast. Dadi moves to India, and she's still around, thank goodness, but she moves to India, so she's not hands-on anymore. And I have to accept the fact that I don't have the same spiritual authority that Daddy does, and I don't expect others to jump when I say jump. What I have to do is to be inclusive and include others within the decision-making process, which is what Daddy Kumarka had to do. Brahma Baba, one thing, Daddy Kumarka came on the scene, and she was younger than some of the other daddies. And many would have said that X, Y, Z should have been the one appointed by Baba. But even the one she was working with, Didi Manmoini, was older than her, was Baba's right hand for a long, long time. But Baba put them together. Didn't say one or the other, but together. And then Daddy Kumarka, Didi Manmoini called the daddies together. Meetings began, and they continue. What I'm sharing is the fact that a decision might be reached faster if it's one person making the decision, but it might not necessarily be the best decision. Secondly, even if it is the best decision, one person making a decision at this moment of time in the Kalpa, in Sangam Yuga, there's definitely going to be a challenge to it. And so calling a meeting means you get many perspectives. I personally have found that here's a person sharing a perspective that I hadn't considered. There was a recent situation and we found that I'm in India, they're there, but I hear about it, and we get this very nasty letter from an individual. And I remember that this individual has had health issues, mental health problems. And I say, is this the same one? But meanwhile, there's somebody within the core team who knows more about mental health problems than I do. And they have access to the mental health professional group. So the connections are made and they bring in their input, which is extremely valuable. And the whole situation calms down very, very swiftly, actually, because there's an inclusivity, many ideas brought together. And so at times it's much longer, but absolutely vital at this moment. And having a meeting is actually a very simple manifestation of regard for the ideas of others. And if I think about today's Murli, yes, self-respect, but respect for others. Ask, what is your idea? What is your thought? And so, yes, it's fine, long time, but it's within a meeting also that you see your own reactions and you learn about your reactions. And so it becomes a mirror and a chance for a difference, a chance for adjustment within myself and my relationship with others. So.
Thank you very much, Sister Jayanti.
Thank you for the homework you did. Excellent quotes and very good questions.
To be a good host, I need to get you to your next destination on time. Those from UK, Europe, Middle East and Pakistan, and those who haven't met Daddy yet, after the few minutes of meditation we'll have together, you'll be invited to go downstairs. We have 6 minutes. So, but let's just have a few moments and then we can move to our next appointments. Om Shanti.